Dear parents, teachers, and guardians of our children, I'm Lylan from the world of Atapuma. Today we'll explore the fascinating world of self-acceptance, self-worth, and self-affirmation. But before we begin, make sure you have the story of Fela the cat nearby, whether in video, print, or digital format. You'll need your magical passport for this journey. From early childhood, it is essential for children to grow up feeling valued and accepted. Self-esteem not only influences how they see themselves, but also how they face challenges, criticism, and relationships with others. When a child develops a strong foundation, they gain emotional tools that allow them to navigate their environment with greater confidence. Now then, what happens when that foundation is not built in time? Who teaches a child to recognize their own worth when all they find outside is rejection? Fela's story allows us to observe this process clearly. Through her experience, we can see how teasing, exclusion, or indifference can deeply affect a child's emotional world. It is not simply a passing sadness. We are talking about insecurity, isolation, and in many cases, a disconnection from one's own abilities. Fela is an organized, careful little cat with many wonderful qualities, yet she struggles to see herself clearly. Her desire to belong leads her to try fitting into a group that does not validate her. How many children today are trying to fit into places where they are not recognized? The emotional cost of this effort, often silent and unseen, is usually much greater than adults realize. At this point, adult guidance becomes crucial, not through correction, but through understanding. Fela's mother does not minimize her feelings, nor does she solve the problem for her. Instead, she offers something different. She encourages her to pause and truly look at herself. A simple act, yet a transformative one. Facing the mirror, Fela begins an exercise in self-recognition. She observes herself, names her strengths, and validates who she is. She starts telling herself that she is valuable, that she has talents, and that her unique way of being deserves a place in the world. This exercise is not merely repetition. It is a way of teaching a child to build a kinder inner dialogue, one capable of supporting them even when the world around them does not. What appears to be repetition is actually inner construction. Little by little, it becomes a new way of thinking about oneself. The environment does not change immediately, but Fela's position toward it does, and that changes everything. This process leaves us with an important reflection. Self-esteem does not appear on its own. It is built, nurtured, and strengthened. Along this journey, a fundamental sequence takes shape. First, the child learns to accept themselves, then to speak to themselves with respect, and finally, to recognize their own value. Self-acceptance allows them to see themselves without rejection. Self-affirmation teaches them to strengthen themselves from within. Self-worth gives them the confidence to act. Because when a child learns to recognize their own value, even in the face of criticism, they stop seeking validation in all the wrong places and begin discovering who they truly are. Self-acceptance is the foundation upon which a child's perception of themselves, their relationships, and their actions in the world are built. When children learn to accept themselves as they are, they develop an inner sense of well-being that does not depend solely on external approval. But what happens when a child cannot accept themselves? Their inner dialogue often becomes critical, comparative, and limiting. Acceptance does not mean ignoring difficulties. It means learning to face them without judgment. In this way, instead of constantly comparing themselves to others, children can focus on developing their own skills and talents. Here, an important question arises. Are we teaching children to compete or to discover who they are? Children naturally compare themselves to others, especially in environments where recognition is limited. However, when they develop self-acceptance, they begin to see differences from a new perspective. They no longer perceive them as threats, but as expressions of diversity. This reduces envy, strengthens respect, and improves coexistence. Furthermore, self-acceptance strengthens emotional resilience. It allows children to face criticism and difficulties without losing their inner stability. It does not remove challenges, but it gives them the tools to overcome them with greater confidence. Once children learn to accept themselves, a new process begins, learning to value themselves. This step involves recognizing their abilities, appreciating them, and understanding that what they do and think truly matters. An important shift happens here. Children stop focusing solely on their limitations and begin identifying areas where they can grow. Self-worth does not emerge from comparison, but from self-recognition. When children value themselves, they stop waiting for permission to participate, express opinions, or try new things. They begin taking initiative and trusting what they can achieve through their own abilities. In Fela's story, this process becomes evident when she recognizes her talent for painting. From that moment on, she not only feels better about herself, but also begins to show herself with greater confidence, participate without fear, and stand by her decisions. Self-worth is directly connected to confidence. A child who values themselves makes decisions more confidently, participates more freely, and approaches challenges understanding that mistakes do not define their worth. They are simply part of learning. As Fela progresses through this journey, something begins to change not only within her, but also in her surroundings. By sharing her achievements and difficulties, she creates opportunities for more empathetic relationships. Gradually, support replaces mockery, and recognition begins to take its place. Emotional development does not happen in isolation. It is also built within a community. What kind of environment are we creating in the spaces where children grow? Promoting self-acceptance and self-worth means accompanying, listening, and validating. It is not about avoiding difficulties, but about providing the tools to understand and face them. Fela's story also highlights the impact of outside opinions. Children seek belonging, recognition, and a sense of being part of a group. When this does not happen, they may begin to doubt themselves. The messages they receive in these situations can deeply shape how they see themselves. That is why the role of adults is so important, not only as emotional support, but also as role models. Children learn by observing how we speak about ourselves, how we handle mistakes, and how we respond to challenges. Strategies such as self-affirmation can be easily integrated into daily life. For example, encouraging a child to recognize something they did well during the day or to identify a personal strength. These small actions, practiced consistently over time, strengthen their inner confidence. Fela leaves us with a very special lesson. It may not always be possible to prevent children from facing rejection or difficulties, but it is possible to give them the tools they need so they do not lose sight of their value during those experiences. Supporting children through this process means helping them build a strong foundation from which they can grow with greater confidence, security, and authenticity. Because a child who accepts themselves, affirms themselves, and values themselves is not only better equipped to face the world, but also learns how to build their own place within it. In this sense, the adult's role is not only to guide, but also to create small, everyday opportunities that strengthen this process. What would happen if every day we gave children a moment to recognize themselves and appreciate what they are capable of doing? A simple exercise can make a meaningful difference. At the end of the day, invite them to answer 3 short questions in front of a mirror or during a quiet moment. What did I do well today? What do I like about myself? What can I tell myself to encourage myself tomorrow? These practices gradually build a stronger, kinder, and more confident inner voice. A voice that will remain with the child even when the world around them does not. On behalf of myself and all the members of the world of Atapuma, thank you for reminding us that when we affirm ourselves, accept ourselves, and recognize our own value, we discover the strength that has always lived within us. If this capsule touched your heart, follow us for more content that inspires, supports, and strengthens families.